Little did the passengers flying on this plane have the slightest clue of what mayhem lay in front of them. Hello everyone. Today I will be simulating Air France flight, the 47's crash. To start with, let me tell you that this crash occurred due to heaps of panic and pilot error. Before we start the simulation and explanation, I would like to explain a few things. After researching on this topic, I came to know that a very small machine called the pitot tubes failed. Now, what exactly are pitot tubes? They're small right-angled sharp tubes which significantly contribute to measuring the airspeed. This small machine will play a big role in the accident, which I will explain shortly. Here we see an Airbus A330-100 registered FGZCP arriving at Rio de Janeiro Airport, Brazil, where it will make a short stop before returning back to Paris as Air France 147. Do note that this is filmed in PTFS pilot training flight simulator, so the weather and time of day does not refer to the one on the same day in real life. The weather that day was terrible, strong gusts of wind, thunderstorms and whatnot. Investigators said that this may have contributed to the incident. The passengers flying back to Paris were very excited. Some were flying for leisure, visiting friends or family, or going in terms of business. So far, everything seemed to be going as planned, uneventfully. At 01 AM UTC, passengers were getting ready to board the 4-year-old bird. At time 01:43 AM UTC, the Giant pushed back from gate 4 as it warms up its engines for its shocking flight ahead. At time 02:09 AM UTC, the plane arrived at the runway. And at time 0:10 AM UTC, the Airbus A330 lifted off Brazilian tarmac, hoping for an arrival in Paris, France. This is only what they hoped. The innocent passengers couldn't wait to see a landing something like this, but of course it wasn't the case. Suddenly, that dream changed just 3 minutes after takeoff. The speed was going down fast, coming back to the pitot tubes. Due to the strong weather, some ice particles formed inside the tubes, which caused it to give speed warnings, which got the pilots panicked. This is where lack of confidence, pilot miscommunication, pilot error starts to play. The pilots were totally unaware of the speed, but they noticed their altitude was drastically dropping. Let me explain. When the altitude of the aircraft is dropping and you have less speed, you would have to pitch the nose down in order to gain speed and not fall through the sky. But in this case, the pilot miscommunication led them to pick the nose up, putting the Airbus into an aerodynamic stall. Unfortunately, at time 0:14 UTC, just 4 minutes after liftoff, the plane plunged into the Atlantic Ocean, killing all souls on board.
Hi, sir. How may I help you?
Oh,
You know the crash. What are we going to do about that?
Yes, I certainly remember that. We have charged Airbus and Air France the line of manslaughter.
What? Why didn't the plane just crash? How is it their fault?
I don't know. At least all of the families and relatives of the 228 souls on board protested that.
Seems quite odd, but I guess we have to listen to them. I say we put up a fine of 225,000 euros on Air France. What do you say?
100% of what I was thinking. We definitely have to do something until someone finds the evidence. Till then, this case must stay within court. I will catch you later. Bye.
Okay then, bye. Sir, what happened? Why did you call me on such urgent notice?
Well, we've finally received some evidence. The recorder boxes were found, which meant we could recover the last few words of the pilots and have investigated to come to a conclusion that Airbus and Air France were found unguilty of the crash because the crash was caused due to pilot error.
Well, that's great news indeed. But I heard there are ongoing protests about Airbus being the one behind this, and they were charged €1 billion for faulty pitot tubes and poor maintenance of the aircraft.
Yes, that's true, and am not sure if Airbus could save themselves from this, other than applying pitot tube sensors on the aircraft to prevent it from catching ice, and warn so that the pilots are ready for anything that comes. In fact, I also heard that they are inventing new pitot tubes which are ice-resistant, so I guess that should stabilize their dropped reputation. Let's see what happens. Till then, have a good day. Bye.